Okay, it should be good.
Great, and welcome to our YouTube channel participants. Yes. Um, and who have in other meetings, welcome Alderman McComb also. Um,
How you feeling? Much
uh,
better.
YouTube channel participants have, thank you, remained anonymous. I almost said unanimous, which is fine.
Yes.
But if you want to identify yourselves, that is also fine. You do not have to identify yourself to raise a question. Feel free to do so at any point. And we do this in the interest of transparency. And we'll take a look at, I don't know, more people are using Zoom, which is the competitor to GoToMeeting. Might be worth considering.
We use it for a statewide group working on composting, and it works pretty slick.
All right.
Yeah.
The reason that we hear this terrible hold music is that we do want to give people who might be a little late a chance to arrive late and participate by dial-in. So we've got the dumb music, which we'll turn off in, I don't know, 5 or 7 minutes if nobody shows up.
I should also add that I have finally gotten high-speed fiber internet into Sun Prairie, so my office's communication server is now available. So we can run it off of my private conferencing system as well at some point in the future if we want to try that as well too.
Sidebar, I heard Sun Prairie went with a new fiber provider.
Yeah, TDS.
TDS, yes.
Yeah.
I would like, sidebar, talk about that with you and
Okay.
your experience.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I should say that we do have a comment from a YouTube user. It's Bruce Beck from Dane County, who just wants to mention that there's been a bipartisan bill brought up on carbon.
I did see that.
Yeah. In the House, and it's HR 7173 for anyone who wants to look it up there. So.
Well, I guess we're taking a moment to share things, and I noticed via Daily Costs, a group, a Democratic environmental group. A Democratic climate group, actually. So I can, learn more about them and share, or even better, maybe, get a thread going on the message board, which I haven't visited recently. Have you been on recently?
I haven't. I just got back to the country and I didn't check it while I was out. So.
Right.
You have a message board.
We do, which we set up when we were brainstorming about the memes. We're not going to take too much time going back over our successes, because I think we've been kind of keeping them front and center as we've gone along, except to just offer one last word of thanks to Dan for the work on the memes. I loved them.
They were awesome.
And I, disseminated them every way I could. We know the frustration about not getting a bounce, from the party itself via the staff and their social media, but oh well.
I'd also like to say I'm going to trust your instincts from now on, because, we were headed in a direction that was more negative, about pointing out the negatives of, versus what you came up with was very focused on the positive and how the Democrats will do this. We're better. And it was just, it was top notch. So.
Well, I'm glad everybody enjoyed them. As I've said, I am not a advertising guy in any way, but if whatever I can contribute, just let me know.
Oh, thanks.
I'm here for anything.
They were good. Thank you.
So our main focus right now, kind of in this point of our development, is one of the things you're supposed to do when you stand up a caucus is to place a strategic plan on file. And so we need to draw up a strategic plan.
That's why there's no one here.
They're
They're like,
no, they're on the table.
Yep.
Good one. Give that one a microphone. So, if there are pertinent points from our recent experience, obviously we want to note them. And what I came up under agenda item 2 was certain, obvious things, like our clarifying our mode of operation, and, we can review that. I don't know, what time is it now?
Yeah.
It's time.
8 minutes? All right, anybody, I guess they can email. I'll watch my email. Because even keeping that low volume was obnoxious. Anyway, all right. Mode of operation. We offered kind of moral support and whatever kind of matchmaking to expertise as different parts of the state. Our brothers and sisters wanted help and moral support, and so we did that in a kind of responsive mode. Our main form of messaging was the memes, but we also had an op-ed, and we kept a very active Facebook page, which we got it up to 200. It's set for 70, so degree by degree it'll go up. I suppose if I'd gotten here 15 or 30 minutes earlier, we'd be warmer. Anyway, and we liaised with candidates and campaigns, and got some good cues from them. In terms of issues, obviously, water was the big one, and one of the cues that we got, I think from multiple directions actually, was the preemption agenda, and basically trying to reverse preemption and return local control over some of these environmental issues, and that something to consider how we can carry forward. But so those were the modes of operation we used. I think they seemed right, but the floor is open for additional modes in which we didn't explore as much. Those were some of the biggest issues that emerged. Our most active platform was definitely Facebook. As an internal tool, we did develop this great message board, which I'm sure we could do more with. We have not really used the website yet, still could. I mentioned that we need a generationally appropriate person to help us with Instagram, and that's my rapid fire run through of where we got to with modes, issues, and platforms. There is also the question of the platform, raised in the last meeting. Dan saying it would probably be appropriate for us to engage in that process. All of that was just to kind of lay before us my sense of where we're at with some of those key categories.
I would propose that any discussion that we have on these topics, though, needs to be preceded by a kind of a review of what we just had in this election. because I think
Thank
that
you.
there's a lot of lessons learned in this.
Yeah.
Um,
And some of them are completely opposing each other.
Yeah, we had a goofy time in some places, and I'm very very pleased that we took the governor's seat. I'm very very pleased that we preserved Tammy's spot in the Senate. The rest of the news,
Were there legislative races where there was underperformance?
oh, we underperformed all across the state.
Yeah.
All across the state, we underperformed
All the
the
strength
country.
came from strong areas.
Yep.
It didn't lift any other boats.
We actually lost ground in legislative races. Everything that we did statewide came out of Dane and Milwaukee County. We did win a little support down in the Cheese Belt. The southwest corner of the state came a little bit bluer. I think that's an economic vote. Dairy farmers have been getting crushed, and I think they kind of went with Trump because they thought he was going to save them, and it turned out to be exactly the opposite. So they've come home. But even then, it didn't benefit Ron Kind any. Most of that strength came in Pocan in the second CD. So, the data on this, I got to say, is terrible. I'm actually compiling my own database right now across the state.
Was
because
Kind's
I'm just
margin not
Kind,
impressive?
it was a great margin, but we didn't budge anything. If you look at all across the state, we didn't improve our margins anywhere except for the 6th CD. And even there, Cole brought in about an extra 9 points. He narrowed that gap.
Yeah,
But that's what we did national.
sure.
So we're only strong where we're strong. At least that's how we performed.
But one of the things that I'm most curious about, just because I don't know, maybe it's a interest that relates to this group, and maybe it's just curiosity. But the people that cross voted, the people that voted for Sean Duffy and also Tammy Baldwin.
I know a person that did that.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
People like Tammy.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I think that
Yeah, they do.
what we see here is that
She's very likable.
Yeah.
Wisconsinites, as I will sometimes say, this is the polite version because we're broadcasting. We're a farm state, and we know what BS smells like, right? And the Republicans ran a candidate against Tammy who turned out to be really weak.
Really bad.
Yeah.
I mean that.
Yeah.
I think we got a little bit lucky in that we ran up a big gap there because she was just the whole fire and brimstone thing that she tried just did not play.
But that's also my question about Ron Kind not lifting any additional. He's not a great candidate either.
Yeah.
In a lot of respects. I mean, there's a progressive part of the party that really does not like him.
And he is in a district that is pretty much dead even when it comes to political partisanship. The partisanship rating of the 3rd CD is really 50-50, and so he does have to walk a tight line down there. And he's always carried good margins. It's just that this is a year where we should have expanded, and we didn't anywhere. And we actually went backward in some of the legislative races. If you look at Senate 1, we took that in the special election 4 months ago, and we lost it by 5 points. You look at Assembly 42, Ann Groves Lloyd lost her special election by 8 points. She lost in the general by 15. I mean, we're backsliding in these districts, and we put in Dane, the county party actually put effort behind Ann Groves Lloyd, even though she's north of us. We sent canvassers up there. We banged on doors for her. Still went backwards there. And that's the message all over the state. Chris Marion in 717 and Senate 17 ran a hell of a campaign. She was tireless. She was out there constantly. Just a fantastic campaign. Worked her rear off to get that seat. Great candidate. Didn't dent the percentage at all. The Republicans took that seat by 10 points, exactly what they did 4 years ago. And that's the story everywhere. Everywhere.
Well, at what point do we stop talking about gerrymandering and trying to figure out how to live with the gerrymander to gain more votes.
Yeah, and I think that that's the story of us going forward.
Yeah.
The next 4 years, and this is why you've got Voss and Fitzgerald down here being so cocky about this legislative, the special legislative session, is because they see these numbers and they know that there's nothing challenging the Republican majority on the square. So I think the next 4 years we are going to see the McConnell strategy, where in the last 4 years of Obama, where just they're going to clog every pipe they can and try to wait it out.
It's worked so well for them.
Yeah, and that's going to be the same on the redistricting too.
Sure.
Under Wisconsin law, the legislature doesn't have to turn in new district maps until January of 2022, and so I guarantee you that they are going to push those maps out to the last second. Evers will veto them. Then it's going to go back for another 3 or 4 month delay while they consider an override. And then by that time, it's going to be too late to mount a court challenge, and we're going to be stuck with the same maps for 2022 as well. So we are in a situation where we are going to have to live with this, what we got right now, for a while.
Because you can only complain, I was going to say piss and moan, but I'm going to say piss and moan about it for so long. And then at some point you got to go, this is the reality. How do we take the reality and still succeed?
Yeah.
So that's a tough question, Lisa.
Yeah, it is. But I think that's and I heard today that Reince Priebus is working with Wisconsin Republicans to do an autopsy. And I think that's kind of what we have to do.
Yeah.
Here's what's tough, right? Because meanwhile, with Evers, we didn't have much to spare, right? So I hear this and I think, wow, all that time I spent focused here in my backyard, I should have been somewhere else, to the extent that I could. But, right, with as close as that key race was statewide, might not be right to second guess that. It might be that all that, turnout in Stevens Point was important, right? So that's the dilemma.
Absolutely. I mean, we won the governor by 30-some thousand votes.
Yeah.
Hey, if we had dropped off anywhere in this state,
there's nothing to spare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we have to make a push on it. But I think what it tells us, though, is that we have to be focused not geographically but demographically. If you look at the way, and I don't have all the numbers into the database yet, and I'm doing this myself because, frankly, the data that we get publicly is just garbage. I don't trust any of it. But looking at the numbers that I've got into the geographical system so far, it's pretty clear that Republicans are solid. They're the most solid in districts that are the whitest, the least educated, and to some extent, the least economically advantaged. That doesn't necessarily, the last category doesn't hold true in places like Milwaukee, obviously. But Republicans clearly have this bathtub effect where they get the one percenters and they get working class, they get the labor. And Democratic strength in Wisconsin is very clearly in skilled labor, college educated. I mean, we are nurses, accountants, office workers. We're not truck drivers. We're not construction people.
Probably lower income brackets as well, though.
That holds true in Milwaukee, but not across the state.
Right.
Lower income brackets in the north go Republican.
Yeah. And we're seeing that nationally.
Absolutely.
So.
Absolutely.
Democrats have low income.
Yeah. Right. I think it kind of depends where they are in that low income sort of group, and how they feel they are disaffected because of society or politics.
Yeah.
I think that's the real thing. So do we, look at those margins, or do we look to strengthen that larger pool? Because it actually is a larger pool of people. And if my Republican friend from Marathon County, who voted for Tammy, but then ended up voting for Duffy and for Scott Walker, I keep asking, what would have made you, what are you looking for? And I think that's what I want to know from him. What are you looking for in a governor? Because he hated Scott Walker too. He hated Scott Walker because this is quote unquote, he hasn't done a damn thing for the environment, and I'm afraid I won't be able to go hunting and fishing. So, what is it that you are looking for in your leadership? And I don't know if we know that. I don't think anybody's really asked that of some of those folks that.
Well, let me segue now then to our
Mhm.
our own little kind of piece of the world. All of this we need to be thinking about just as activists and leaders, for sure, right? That's the broader picture. So thank you for kind of the wake up call and the data on that. And looking towards when we're back in that full campaign mode, it's going to affect what we do. The point I'm segueing to is that in the meantime, you made, brief reference to there's been a partial shift in the balance of power, and you made a prediction about the McConnell strategy. The way I see it, our job is to arrive in 2020 having bolstered our, having in the meantime, when we get back into that campaign mode, we've done things to reinforce our case, right? And when you get to the campaign and we're just hammering home whatever our strongest points are. In between, I think, if my sense is right, our job is to point towards what our governor did, or what our governor and our minority caucuses tried to do, but were blocked from doing, and or more of the local level stuff. But if you see what I'm saying about how we relate to the new power configuration is where does control of the governorship and neither house leave us in relation to a legislative agenda?
So I spend all these days in Stevens Point at the Green Fire meeting. And what was discussed there that's kind of relevant is that, not only did we lose both houses, but they also both got more conservative. I mean, the Republicans that won both are more conservative than the ones that were there in the previously. And what we are working in Green Fire on right now is doing an environmental report card with the idea of saying, this is what's going on right now in DNR specifically, and a little bit beyond that too. And this is, what really should be going on. And so these are the most important things to do going forward for 2020.
Yeah, I think that a very viable strategy, and it obviously is going to require some coordination with a lot of different groups. I think we can very easily anticipate from everything that we know and everything that's being said that we are going to see a obstructionist agenda from the legislature. And in my experience, and just looking back at political history, the only way to break that kind of logjam is to make them pay the political price for it before it actually happens. That the approach to it is to go out and say, all right, look, the people spoke, we have a new governor, Republicans in the legislature, it's your turn to listen and do these things before they start coming up with reasons not to push agendas forward. I mean, you literally have to just go out and hold their feet to the fire immediately instead of being reactive.
Be proactive.
You got to be proactive with it. It's the only way to get it passed. That, I think, it might be an important thing to look at, and I honestly don't have enough experience working with people outside of southern Wisconsin to know if that's something that we can do on a large scale across the state.
Well, but I understand the strategic point. You know, that it to gain an upper hand, which is, you know, basically what we're always trying to do, and, you know, be playing offense. The point is that we have to be ahead of the curve in terms of setting the agenda and the expectations.
Yes.
Right?
So we would be the ones we would frame it before they have a chance to frame
Set
whatever
the
issue.
expectations. Well,
Yeah.
you know, damn it, the legislature should do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. Here's what the people want. Now it's time for you guys to take care of it. Yeah.
Here's an interesting little side note regards to that in terms of doing that. One of the things that they might do right now is decide that the DNR board secretary should be board appointed. You know, which is interesting because that would give us 2 more years of a Republican head of the DNR until apparently the board switched over enough that it would be able to replace that. But
Oh yeah, they're going to grab as much power as they possibly can in this special
but this
section.
that would make them look good because that's what environmental groups have been asking for years.
That is true.
Right?
That is true.
And so
Yes.
so do you take the long-term gain with that?
Yeah.
Why not?
Why not?
Why not? Okay, I mean, we'll sacrifice 2 years now, but we'll get 2 years past the current administration as well.
Well, it's about choosing your battles.
Yeah. And you know, the same, we're going to have that same thing with the UW regions. I mean, that's going to be across the board. And
Sure.
and frankly, I don't know if there's just no way to stop it. If they want to do it during the special session, we're just going to have to live with it. So I think that, you know, this is an excellent example of where we just need to get in and push on the future appointees issue to make certain that the people who are going to be put on that board
Right.
are going to be friends and we're going to make long-term change there. You know, one thing that, you know, we can do, and I know that it's hard for folks in different parts of the state, but one thing that we're talking about in small groups down in Dane County is just packing every legislative committee meeting that we can. I mean, just getting back into the habit of having people in front of
Yep.
you know, cameras and press every single committee meeting.
Well, and it should, you know, you make a good point, and it should always be a different group of people. It shouldn't be the same group of people all the time because they get savvy to that and already know what you're going to say before you say anything.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because I've seen it happen. So that's,
Well, I mean, that speaks directly to operating mode. That if that premise seems right, that means that we are very kind of rapid response,
well,
or at least following
Right, if we have
the
the
key
people to do
key
that.
committee
Right.
agendas.
need the
Right.
people to do it. But I think what Dan's saying, and I agree, is being more proactive than reactive. I mean, we try to do it in my industry. Every time there's a bill that comes up related to solid waste or recycling, we want to try to get ahead of things, but it's very hard to get ahead of a legislative agenda that we're not totally aware of.
Yeah.
And so you have to be reactive to some degree, but I think the proactive comes in building strategic goals. And then one of those strategic goals is probably trying to build this capacity of people who will show up at committee meetings, whether it's a natural resources or not, natural resources committee of Senate or the ag committee of, the assembly, because there's going to be things going on in all of those, and getting people familiar with, signing up for that legislative notice, on in the state. If you haven't done that before, you can sign up for keywords, and every time there's even a bill being circulated, you can find out about it in advance. I will send you a link. It's really quite handy.
Right.
Yeah.
And statewide too, one thing that I've seen go down in other states is to hook up with the electeds and just simply yank on their chain until they come out and start having town halls and other appearances that make the press. Keep the issues current in the press with that type of a strategy.
So, question, we keep, I like, keeping in contact with the legislative, or the elected assembly and Senate. But actually having a day or a time where we actually go to the leadership, and spend time talking to them. They may not listen to us, but they may. I mean, I've had 2 bills that I had Republican senators introduce get signed into law because we took the time to meet with them and explain why it would be good for X, Y, and Z, built up the rationale for it, help them feel comfortable with it, talk to WMC so WMC would feel good about it, and we actually had some success. Not every time, but if we don't have the conversations with the Republican leaders, they don't know we exist.
Yep.
And sometimes those conversations are actually pretty good because they like to talk, and they will sometimes give clues and ideas on how they are feeling about things.
Or what's coming next.
Or what's coming next.
And I will say, we demonize the opposition quite a bit. Often, most times, I would say, appropriately, but they're not, all monstrous. The Fitzgeralds always had a soft spot for children's programs. They always made sure that there was funding for children's social programs in the budget and stuff. So, there are avenues in, and we really should try to exploit them more.
Like the opposition party.
Any questions or comments? Okay. There's a lot there in terms of mode of operation, and I think it gives some cues to issues. It says where and how we'll find issues, even if it doesn't, home in on anything, particularly in terms of substantive content. The next category was platforms, right? Again, we've been on Facebook where people over 40, over 35, over 30 are, right?
We should, ask some of the younger members of our group, whether we should use Snapchat or whatever. So
Instagram.
Instagram, yes. But I still want to get back to, and I harp on this all the time at council and at county board too, is strategic plan. And it seems, we had to kind of run before we walked, and that was fine. I think we had a great output and great opportunities, and we elevated the prominence of our caucus and shared it. But I think in the absence of having some strategic goals that we all agree on, that are the proactive part of what we're going to do, it's going to be hard for us to set an agenda for moving forward. I just think it's absolutely critical to have 3 to 5 strategic goals,
Mhm.
and then underneath those, we can build the tactics to achieve those goals.
No, that's why.
Yep.
Just other points for the strategic plan.
Sorry,
Right
yes.
there. So, well, the first thing that comes to mind for me is kind of spreading our reach, right? Getting better connected with more parts of the state.
Yes.
And I think, to an extent, we're in that spirit, right? I mean, I know some of the outreach that I worked on to candidates were people in other parts of the state. It wasn't like I looked at a map, but instead, found cues of who to try and connect with because I ran into someone at the Foxconn demonstration or noticed someone
Right.
that I'm connected with on Twitter. But and that's at that kind of campaign and candidate level. Of course, there's also the county party committee level. There's the just individual activist level, but it seems to me that that's an important frame for our strategic plan, right?
Well, that would
Here
be
we go. Here we are. We lost. We don't have Wood County in the room
right.
for
But-
when we usually do, but Dane Marathon and Portage as per usual, right?
Right, and Dane, so as I think, expand our reach or reach all parts of the state is a great strategic goal. What are the tactics to get to that? And then you can parse that out into candidate level. But I think more importantly is just parsing it out to human level, to the normal person level. And I think we do that by meeting around the state and creating some interest and working with the local parties to see if we can even get more people
We gotta
in.
hit the road in
Yeah,
person
we're going to
and
continue
do
to
more
meet
in person.
in Point or
Yeah.
just Madison.
Yeah, and I think this speaks
Mm-hmm.
directly to a kind of a core problem with Wisconsin Democrats in that we really don't know who we are. If you ask 10 Democrats in Wisconsin what it means to be a Democrat
Yes.
here, you're going to get 11 different answers.
Yep.
And one of the things that we might want to do to start this process is to simply find out where we are as a state. Let's go to let's go to the county parties.
Yes.
Let's go around and say, look, what are your issues
Yes.
related to the environment? Because if there's one thing that does bring Democrats together, it's environmental issues.
Right.
We can disagree on economics and social issues and other things, but Democrats are
Right.
solid on environment.
Right.
And so we could use it not only to expand our influence, but also as a unifying feature for the party, which is something we definitely need.
Absolutely.
I could see us, developing, if in the strategic plan, we develop a strategic plan and going out to each county party meeting. And,
Yep.
I think that in Marathon County, that'd be a big draw for a meeting, frankly. Because it's never focused on that before since I've been there.
Yeah, when people like to be asked rather than told.
Yep.
And so that's one thing. I still think we need to get to that uncomfortable zone of talking with people that might not have voted Democratic. I think we have to find out again, because that also is a unifying, the environment is unifying across most of the parties between the Democrats and Republicans. We've got to start having that conversation to connect those people who may vote Republican or independents with the strength of the Democratic Party as it relates to environmental protection.
How would one do that?
I remember a meeting that we had, one of the first ones we had, and I think it was over at the university, and Julie was there. Mary, I think you were there too, and I don't remember. And she had said that, and I'm trying to remember his name, he used to be majority leader and he was from Athens, or Marathon City, I'm trying to remember. And he was big on making sure that the deer herd was kept healthy and that, the quotas were expanded so that we could have good hunting, etc. He would go to the gun shows and set up a booth. And he's a Democrat. He still is a Democrat. But we may have to find ourselves going into a little bit uncomfortable zones and not necessarily defending our position, but sharing it.
Well, a question I have is, and that's related to that, is where do the Republican environmentalists hang out?
I don't know.
And I suspect a number of them are hunters. I mean,
They are
I think
hunters.
that's probably a pretty good.
And they will proudly say that they like environmental protection because they hunt and fish. It's,
Yeah, if you look at groups like Ducks Unlimited, and that's where you're going to find them.
but that's where we should be saying, can we visit with your regional meeting and just explain what we're doing?
Yeah. Ashley says her thing
Decker.
is not working, but she's online. What about having a presence at the Wisconsin Conservation Congress events? Typically sportsmen who are not necessarily Dems, not at all Dems in my experience. But
Decker was his last name. Decker. Yeah. He was the majority leader for a while, but Russ Decker. Yeah. But I think if we can start, let's not preach just to the choir. Let's find out what the choir, in all of its multi-characteristics, what their interpretation of environmental protection is, or what they value in the environment. We can start having those conversations. I just think we have to start doing that.
I think this is all good, but I think we have to have a plan first.
Yes, absolutely.
And so we have to figure out probably tonight how on earth we're going to get from this point to having a strategic plan.
Well, I think we need to I think our choices are having our discussion facilitated, or we just start detailing out, throwing ideas against the wall as it relates to strategic goals, and then we start picking them or combining them and coming up with 3 or 4, 5. I wouldn't go with more than that because the strategic plan is really just a 3 to 5 year plan. You come back and you revisit it after 3 to 5 years. So what are the things that we want to accomplish? What are those core things in our strategic plan? Then you can start developing the tactics. Like, we're going to go to the Conservation Congress. We're going to go to Ducks Unlimited and just request 15 minutes at their annual meeting or whatever.
And it doesn't have to be restricted to those types of political groups. I mean, local chambers of commerce.
Yes.
Lions.
We should be hitting up Horicon, every civic group in Horicon, because that marsh brings them in huge amounts of money.
Yes.
And it's not being reflected in any way in the way that area votes.
Tomahawk Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah.
Minocqua.
Yeah.
Eagle River. You're right. So I think there's a lot of things but we do have to all agree on what those core strategic goals are, and also on some strategies, because that develops our action plan. Because for me at work, the strategic plan is that nice 3 to 5 year plan that's aligned with the comp plan. But my work plan, my year-to-year plan, are all the tactics to achieve those strategic goals that the county sets out.
I don't know if that one meeting is, I was thinking, should we do it during a meeting? Should we have a special meeting?
I think it's a special meeting. Yeah.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be terribly boring. It can actually be kind of fun.
And we've got a
Yeah.
mission statement to work with.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not concerned. I think we've been conscious, and I think we have a sense of ourselves. What's new here? I'm not worried about our ability to come up with a strategic plan. The new element is that that we're shooting for the level of buy-in and shared pride of authorship with as many people as we can get, and doing it in person rather than by reacting to things in draft.
Well, I think it's both of those things. I mean, Dan just got done telling us that we really didn't change things in Wisconsin. We do have a Democratic governor. We've got a Democratic senator. Huh?
AG.
AG, yes, that's wonderful. But we need to find a way to tip the scales. And if the environment is something that we all value, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, this might be a scale tipper. And make that margin of 30,000, 50,000, 60,000. Because now you're starting to get into, what did Trump win by in Wisconsin, 70,000?
20, yeah.
20?
Yeah, 20.
Yeah, so that's what we need.
23. Right.
And then we can also work at the legislative level to find out, have those conversations with Republican leaders, because, sit down, we can talk with Coles. I'm sure he's going to chair Natural Resources Committee again. I can't imagine they'll take that away from him. Have those conversations so they're aware that we're here, and we want to appear non-threatening, but we are a group of great professionals that have great amount of information that actually might help some of those folks if they want to advance something that they can find as sort of that moderate thing that they want to, that feel-good thing as it relates to the environment. I think there's a lot of opportunities.
Yeah. And I have to say, I have been stressing to people all over that it is the typical Democratic habit to win an election and then have a party and then go sit on their butts for a year. And this time, I mean, we really can't. The next presidential cycle, Wisconsin is the battleground state. We have to start now, or we are going to blow it again when it comes to putting a president in. And so this is something that we just can't be lax about this time.
No.
We were lax with Obama. We were lax with Doyle. We may not have ultimate power, but we've got to go.
We've got to fight.
Yeah.
We can't take for granted. We took for granted the progressive heritage of Wisconsin for far too long, and we let it slip away from us. We have to fight for what's good.
Yeah.
Well, and the Republicans have not stopped fighting.
Right.
No.
They're very good at it. Yeah.
So.
And we like to be nice. Well, we can be nice, but we can also fight. So.
I mean, I'm hearing, sort of multiple tracks, cluing into the legislative agenda, moving target as it is, making sure under that to engage bipartisanly across the aisle, reaching across the aisle. Getting to know our kind of co-partisan brothers and sisters around the state via listening, and figuring out ways to connect with people who aren't our constituents. As a practical matter, we just said that we would like to identify, or home in on our major strategic goals, pulling as many of our people into the room as possible. Our next monthly meeting is going to be like, right, holiday time,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
Fourth Wednesday.
yes.
We do have a comment, by the way.
Yeah.
Again, from Bruce Beck and Dane, asking, pointing out, is DPW trying to identify the legislative districts that are most likely to flip Democratic in 2020?
Oh.
And should the caucus focus on those same districts, especially districts with environmental issues? I can answer that to a small extent, in that my sense is that, and I hate to be critical of our own party, but my sense is that,
It's okay, you can.
is DPW doing anything right now? I think that's highly questionable. I would love to see that kind of movement out of them, but
Yeah.
frankly, the reason that I'm building my own voter databases and graphical information or geographical information systems is because nobody seems to have them.
Yeah.
And the party's not moving anything to develop them, as far as I can tell.
So when I shared that Michigan write-up, what I didn't say, but certainly thought was, oh my God, this doesn't look like us. To me, even with my limited perch on what was going on here, it was not hard to tell the difference.
Yeah.
Right? And to take the, kind of the clearest slice of experience that we had, which was a failure to get our staff to even simply tweet out a few times the memes that were fucking good.
Yeah.
If you pardon me.
Yeah. They were spectacular.
Right?
And they should still be sending those.
At one level, that they let us down. I mean, I don't like whining about staff. I'm not usually comfortable doing that because I have a lot of experience with organizations. I understand the work that's involved, but we did all the work to make it easy for them to do something, and I asked as clearly as I could. So that's on the one hand. On the other hand, when you read about Michigan and see what a pedal to the metal effort looks like, they didn't heap so many responses, but I'll bet there were multiple people handling social media in the Democratic Party of Michigan.
Yeah. Well, I think this goes back to the comment that I think I made last meeting, in that the Wisconsin Party has been trying to run everything top down. You've got a handful of people who have been trying to do it all, and you can't. We don't have the money or the organization for that type of a structure. And I think that Bruce's comment here kind of goes to that, in that as I was saying just a few minutes ago, if we go around the state and ask people in different parts, what's your top environmental priority, you're going to get a bunch of different answers, and that does not lend itself to a centralized structure that we've built. So I think that perhaps one of the things that we can do as a caucus, following up on Bruce's comment here, is to make those contacts all with the parties in the different counties and the groups in the different counties, and just let's find out what are the biggest environmental issues in those localized areas, so that we can focus down on with both candidates and as a caucus to help flip those seats.
It would be nice not to have to start with 72, but.
Well, at the same time, a lot of the county parties are, 3 people who get together for a beer once a month, to be honest with you. So
Point of education, let me know. We're one of many caucuses in the Democratic Party. It would seem logical to me that at some point these caucuses get together, at least a representative from all these caucuses get together to, start talking about strategy and to communicate with the state level Democratic Party. Is that not a thing?
it's communication, I think, among the caucuses is something very new because we just haven't had a lot of them in the past. Communication between the caucuses and the state party, my understanding of it, and I do not have the direct experience, but my understanding talking to people has always been strained because the party sees the caucuses as a necessary evil that does nothing but interfere with where they want to take things.
I got the sense that they felt we were usurping,
Yes.
yes, rather than seeing them as an enhancement to what I hope they have a strategy for, but I'm not even sure that that's the case.
Well, part of this is that I think things need to be done face to face.
Yes.
Yep. Absolutely.
Doing the whole thing by email is really easy for people to be cold shoulder each other.
Right.
No. Whereas if you're in person, you say, no, I think what you're thinking I'm doing is not what I'm really doing.
Yeah.
Saul Alinsky told us as much. He really did.
And that's why I
it's
think
right
it's so
there in
important
most
to go
radicals.
to these
Yeah.
far reaches of this great state and have those conversations and ask.
And same goes, right. How differently might everything have gone if I'd gotten together with Courtney at some point?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Face to face.
And she may have, so in working with staff is always because, I'm a department director, I'm executive management. My staff has certain things on their work plan that they're supposed to take care of. So if they have someone coming in from the outside and saying, you need to do this, this, and this, it may not fit well with the direction they've been given from people above them.
No, except we were careful not to say this, this, and this.
Yeah.
But to say this that we've teed up for you.
Right. But I'm just saying she may have found herself in a challenging place. So, and I'm just giving her the benefit of the doubt.
Well, but the other benefit of the doubt is the one that I was making, and it relates to resources, and that we don't have money. And is that a reality we have to live with? Like, maybe gerrymandering? I don't know. So we have Tammy Baldwin, whom we love, and whom many Wisconsinites love. They have Debbie Stabenow, who one has to say, when you read that piece, like, wow, what a dynamo. And I don't know how much it details it in there, but one assumes, looking at it, that what was one of the things mobilized by all that hard driving leadership was money for everyone, money not just for the Senate campaign.
Yeah. And one thing that we lack in Wisconsin is that unifying heavyweight personality. We don't have a central figure that every Democrat in Wisconsin can rally around.
Yeah.
There are some people who are coming up, and there's a lot of hope being placed right now that Mandela Barnes might serve in that role to some extent. But we don't have a Cory Booker. We don't have a Howard Dean, who can just take the state and push it. We're just too fragmented for that. So, and honestly, looking at the bench, I don't see a single person who could ever be that right now. There are a couple of candidates, but where are you going to get them? And I love Tammy. She's fantastic. I co-hosted a fundraiser for her. I did everything for her that I could. But at the end of the day, she's Wisconsin nice, very gentle person.
Right.
She's not going to serve that
Tammy
role.
is Amy. Debbie Stabenow is Paul Wellstone.
Oh,
right.
What a comparison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when we lost Feingold, we lost a potential there as well.
Right.
Yeah. So it's hard to know where we're going to find a unifying force in the state party, and that's why I'm saying that the environment maybe we need that.
That's where I was going. Is this the unifying force? We don't look for a person, but a cause.
Yeah.
I want to be modest about expectations on that.
Well, I think that's.
Well, I'm not saying it's what I'm saying is, could it be that unifying force? I don't know, but unless we have a conversation about it,
So we
And-
try it.
yeah.
All right,
And
all right.
about again, I get back to going out to these places that feel forgotten.
Where
They-
people might not always be nice to you.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
I understand that. But that doesn't necessarily lead to that, right? Like so I feel I was about to say I feel good. I feel great about leveraging, a prominent top of the second tier set of issues to help, pull whatever, is it 20,000? I don't know, whatever it is. I feel like that itself represents a degree of ambition, right? I'm hearing another level of ambition that makes me a little more hesitant. Right? Like about a prominence. Think of it this way. The uppermost tier was preserving people's health care, funding schools. Right? Funding schools was somewhat of a distant second, and tax giveaways was a distant third. And I don't know, maybe we were even possibly we arguably for certainly in the top half dozen. Okay. Like what I feel like I'm hearing is we could be healthcare. And I want us to be healthcare to the degree that our party has that kind of trust, like that we have an association with the issue. But I'm a little bit more skeptical about we could be healthcare. Like
We don't have to be that, but for some parts of the state, the environment is going to be healthcare.
Yeah, really.
And I have actually, I think that I'm taking an opposite view of where you're going with it, David, because every day you look in the news now, you are seeing climate change. You are seeing weather-related stuff. You are seeing environmental issues, top headlines across the board, even
Drinking
Fox.
water issues
Drinking water issues
everywhere.
everywhere.
Right.
I mean, maybe we're not on the minds of people every day like healthcare, but we are in the news every day,
Right.
and that's just going to accelerate
Right.
as environmental issues continue to worsen across the globe. So, we may not be healthcare today, but
Right.
we may be
Right.
healthcare next week.
I agree with you.
All right.
I think it
I mean, because I look at how we're not where we should be with voter suppression, like so far off, and
Yeah.
that Stacey Abrams, oh my God, she's a goddess. I mean, that's
Yeah.
incredible. But that's what it took, right? And how late it was,
right.
how late in the game, and how that's one place you see what I'm saying?
See, but I think you've got an apples and oranges comparison there, because voter suppression only affects the people who are being suppressed.
Right.
That's you don't get the broad support for those types of issues because people, I'll just say it, because white folks don't have an issue going to the polls.
Right.
All right, but
Yeah.
when drinking water gets contaminated, when a CAFO wrecks your local stream,
Air
when
quality deteriorates.
Devalues your property.
okay, that's everybody.
Yes.
That's everybody. It's as universal as healthcare.
Yeah.
And we need to start treating it that way. We need
Yeah.
to start talking about it in those terms.
Yeah.
I like that last
I
part.
agree. I agree. And this may not be, this is for the long haul. There's more short-term strategies and tactics, but this is the long haul. And it really starts with, this is a very big state. there are people that just feel like they're forgotten and their issues are forgotten because the environment around the state is talked about. So how can we capitalize on that to, again, I get back to those scales. We want to be able to create more weight on our side of that scale. So those votes start, because we're going to have to continue to deal with gerrymandering and voter suppression and all those other things. What I really hate is when someone says you can't do it because of all of these problems. And I like to say, fuck that. Let's find a way to succeed anyway. That's what you have to do.
Yeah.
Because they're counting on the Democrats to not fight. They're counting on the Democrats to not use the kind of tactics that they're using to actually move the needle, get the scales, whatever you want to use. We've got to stop being pansies.
So, yeah, if we're going to sit down and write the strategic plan then,
Mhm.
I think that, the overriding concept of it is that it's time to be proactive. It's time to get the environment out front and get out front on environmental issues,
Yeah.
rather than simply waiting for the Republicans to do something dumb and then
And then we'll go, oh, look at those bad guys.
yeah, it's time to lead.
Yeah.
And then it becomes, that's a fight that's very hard to win then, after it's already been done.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is more important, education is huge in this state, but lots of people don't care because their kids are done with school,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Environment
Although,
really is everybody.
But I felt good. I felt fantastic about the healthcare. Like, man, we all rock. But I felt pretty good about people's being concerned about school funding. My
Well,
sense.
Yeah, but they also spend a lot of money bringing it to prominence, and something they should worry about and be concerned about.
It's a
Yeah.
struggle. It's a struggle. I mean, just in Sun Prairie, I mean, we're solid blue Dane County, and to get a new high school built, we had to break the funding up into 3 different referendums
Mhm.
because you just couldn't put that big of a number in front of the voters.
Because
and
they
get
just
it big
go,
up. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so they had to do one for
Yeah.
the main building and another for the athletic facility
Yeah.
and then another for the land, and because you just couldn't.
Right.
People still aren't
Right.
ready to cut the check.
And that's why for our levy increase for the healthcare center, we were very specific that this is for 4 years because I didn't want them going, oh, this will be forever type of thing, because that's another way that people start getting, they pull back.
Yeah.
Because they don't know what the future is. They don't know what,
Even the tiniest thing.
Right.
Right now, the biggest fight in Dane County, one of the biggest ones, is a $28 wheel tax
Yes.
because the state cut the roads, the
Yeah,
road funding.
we just approved that at county board.
Yeah, and boy, are you going to hear about it for the next 10 years.
Yes.
We backed,
So-
we backed off of it in council.
Yeah, we backed off of it on council, and
Yeah.
I had to
Um,
vote for it at county board,
no,
unfortunately.
all sounds good. All noted. All setting us up for a good discussion and honing of a strategic plan. Let me come back to that practicality. So we've said we want to have the best attended and most focused meeting to home in and to identify and articulate our main strategic goals that we can. So when and where as part of making a special, do we want to? We love this building. We're proud of this building.
Solar,
Everything. Turn the open sign on. Everything. But do we want to
We need to have
mix it up?
we need
Do
to try
somewhere
to have
else.
space for somewhere bigger, and I think we need to have it a little farther south. Because I suspect the bulk of our membership is from a little farther south. I mean, a lot farther south, but maybe, you know, still not so far south as to be Madison and, you know, exclude the rest of the state. But like, is there somewhere between here and Madison that we could do it?
There's Portage.
The Dells,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
The Dells or Portage.
Yeah.
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 What county is
works.
Portage in? What county
It's
is
Columbia County.
And you know, the other thing, yeah, we don't necessarily need people to come to us. You know, I'm willing to make the drive. You know, I drive up here. I'm happy to drive to other
Yeah.
counties and just be with them during meetings.
Are we saying that we would meet I mean, we can get a room anywhere, right? But are we really saying that we would do this? I don't know. I mean, I know that in the near future, we need to get out and on the road.
Road again? Sorry.
And I think not meeting here at this location is right. To go somewhere very different, because we want to do this soon, right? We want to, you know, get our strategy figured out and then start executing.
I don't know if we had a hope of doing it before January.
Yeah, no, I think it's after the first of the year.
Do we want to, so maybe give ourselves December off? Okay. Or have a preparatory meeting looking towards whatever that
I
meeting
think
is?
we need to prep so that we ask the right kind of questions to
Okay.
get the involvement.
Have another meeting
Because
like
if you don't
this.
set up-
Okay.
If you don't set up sort of policy questions, we're just gonna kind of go around. So what are the key questions we would
need
ask?
to prepare for it.
Yeah,
So would we do that before or after the new year? I mean, like, would we
Sort
do
of-
it before the holidays or right after the new year?
For the
The small one,
planning,
yeah,
yeah.
right, the small one.
I thought our typical
Well,
meeting.
our typical meeting would just be December 26th.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, stick with, okay, all right.
I mean,
Okay, stick with
yeah,
our,
yeah,
okay.
no,
All right,
Oh, I'm fine.
all right.
okay,
26.
yeah.
And stick with fourth Wednesday for this big,
Mhm.
for January?
Fine with that.
Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Now
That is
back to the where. Now back to the where.
I think we can, maybe what we should do is sort of ponder that and maybe send out an email to.
Would anybody like to host?
Would anybody like to host? Suggestions. We want to
Okay.
try to include,
Great.
because then we can
Let's put
set
that
up,
question.
you know,
down.
part of it
Okay.
is how can then we build maybe some carpooling and.
Okay, great.
It'd be nice if we
we'll
could have it at a nature center or something like that, or a
Out of the need,
center.
I'm sorry.
That's what just came from.
Oh, sorry, it's just so beautiful.
It is lovely.
All right, I like that. We will, we know when. We know that we're gonna set ourselves up for success by having another meeting between then, but the question of where we'll put out to everyone.
I'll throw one suggestion, just because I think it kind of kills two birds with one stone.
Yep.
Brown County is like Portage in that they own their own headquarters, and it's a fairly nice little building.
And have we seen people from Brown?
I'm not sure. But,
No, we've seen Adams and,
you know,
right, okay, no.
Green Bay is an important strategic
I think that's a good
location
I
idea.
for the
think it is
state.
too.
If we can turn Green Bay, we turn the whole state.
Right.
And, you know, I think that's, if you want to talk about the big spots, you know, Dane, Milwaukee.
Green Bay.
Do we
Let's-
love that idea that we want to pursue that, or do we want to do both? And say we're thinking of this, but still no, we
I
love.
think we should contact the
You-
Brown County
you
Democrats
love
and
this
say, hey,
idea.
would you
Because
have
we
any
might
ideas
get
for
some
us
of
to
them
go?
actually
And
participate.
would you like to
That's the
participate with
Yeah.
us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's bring them in at the same time we are having this discussion.
It'd be really great if they had like a conference system.
All right. Oh, well, we figure that out.
Yeah.
All right. Excellent.
Good idea. I
So-
like that.
This meeting would be a strategic planning meeting then.
The January meeting
Okay.
would be a session to set our
Probably
strategic
longer.
goals.
Longer,
Yeah. A couple hours.
at least.
Yep.
And in the meantime, I will, if you guys want to utilize it, I can set up a special section on the message board where we can have listed discussions preliminary to that
Yep.
to start
Oh,
hashing
sure.
out agenda and ideas.
Let's talk about that
Mhm.
on December 26th.
Perfect.
Who's gonna contact
Oh,
Brown
shit.
County? I think that needs to happen soon.
Hang on. I guess I can participate remotely, but I'm not going to be in Stevens Point on December 26th.
Oh, sure.
Well, we'll finally have someone call in.
Yes.
As long as we
So
can
I
get someone to open the door, I'm
Okay,
fine with here.
alright.
Or if you guys want to do it someplace else, it's.
All right. You saw that where I was going was
Yeah.
maybe have someone else chair, but fine.
Who is going to contact Brown
I can do
County?
that.
Thank you.
Because what I'm not doing is working on a first draft of the strategic plan. So that's good. I came away from tonight ahead of the game on that score. So I'll
There
think.
you go.
Yes.
I'll do things.
Where is the message board?
Um,
I see,
So it was when.
was it sent out in one of the agendas? Because
Right, but not the
was
last
a-
month or two, because the focus on it was as we were crystallizing the idea for the memes. We wanted a place,
I'm
and
way
then that was
behind.
exactly, that was
Yeah.
I want to say 3 months ago.
yeah. So the address, and this is good for everybody watching.
WPR.
Well, it's forums.wpren.org.
I think I was on it, but I just haven't been there.
Me too.
No, I haven't been in a while.
I don't know
mean,
how I found it, but I got.
Yeah, I think there was a link, and then you had to get approved to get
Okay.
onto it.
Yeah, we restricted access to
Right.
caucus members.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right.
And I thought I wasn't-
That was
yeah.
a decision we
Oh,
made.
okay.
So
Yeah.
we're
Okay.
honor system for these meetings, right? We announce it to our members, but if someone hears about it and shows up, it's honor system that we assume that they're an environmentally minded Democrat and not a Republican spy, whatever.
So,
We went the other way on the message boards,
Yeah.
a little more kind of careful about having it be internal.
there's always a risk that a spy will
Right,
show up.
right.
Yeah. I mean, and it's not like
Oh,
I've
well.
locked down the boards with, government level security. There's no.
Right.
What's the secret handshake?
Yeah.
But
but,
that will be a good use for it, in the same spirit that we're going to meet on December 26th to get ready for the January discussion. Likewise, we're going to use the message board to get ready for the January discussion. on
Yep,
something.
yep. Oh, excuse me.
We do pretty well ending early. The point was well taken, some 2 or 3 hours for the January meeting, but we've been doing pretty well not using the entire hour and a half, and we're going to keep to that. So
Good. I haven't
adjourned.
had
Thank you
myself
very
a-
much.
Unlike some
Oh,
people.
did we stay with
That's a
2?
good one. That's a nice one.
Did it ever go up?
Yeah, we ended up with 3 people on
Good.
it.
So
Thanks for bearing with
Oh,
us,
and we
people.
have a
Bruce
comment.
plus 2. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's from Ashley.
Oh,
Who says that she has several connections with the Brown County board members who are progressives and would be good allies if we did something in Brown. So it
I'll
looks like
I'll follow up with
Excellent.
Ashley.
Yeah.
yeah, there's a couple of, yes, there is.
Thanks, Ashley.
great.
Oh
All
my
right.
goodness, I've been sitting since 10 o'clock. That's how long I had the other meeting.
Thanks,
was.
everyone.
Oh, my God.
Good night.
Sore.